I'm very excited to have Marc Strigel with us. You have such a, so you're from TravelStart, and you have a great pedigree as well. History, work history. Tell us about where you were before this this role.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit unusual. So before I joined TravelStart roughly a year ago, I was for a couple of years with SoundCloud and was their COO, where we basically tried to create a global stage for creators. But now I chose kind of to move my family to Cape Town in South Africa in order to kind of grow the business and help with TravelStart to fix travel in Africa.
So why did you move, roles and industries? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
so what made you decide to do that?
Why do I do the double whammy of making it twice as difficult for me?
Right, of course.
No,
I'm the same way. So yeah.
Okay, great. No, I think honestly the industry is not that different. So I have experience in e-commerce. I worked for eBay and PayPal and did an e-commerce startup as well. In the end, kind of my whole career was about connecting people. So if you have a SoundCloud, creators, and you have the listeners, and you're connecting them. Here we are truly connecting people in Africa that they can basically meet their friends and family. So it has the same principle, and of course it's kind of online and technology. But there's another component. I think it's very important to kind of see the benefit and the potential in emerging markets, and Africa is clearly an emerging market. If you look at the world's travel market and believe Focusrite's kind of analysis, it's maybe only 4-5% of the global travel market, but it has the biggest growth. And it could be actually that future which always was promised, and that's attracted me to basically see how can we basically build a great travel brand in that continent.
So to contribute to that potential future, right?
Yeah,
to make that happen?
Yeah, I think there is a point around kind of, especially that as we basically often say we like travel but love technology at TravelStart, and so I think it's very important that we find a way how can we basically transfer some of the experience and knowledge kind of Europe and the US had, which is most of my work experience, how to kind of build a great company where engineers, but as well marketing and salespeople and operations people, can actually work at a place where they can have the best works of their lives. So yes, there's some learnings which I hope I can bring as well to the company and maybe as well to the African ecosystem when it comes to how to manage tech companies.
How have you, in that same vein, how have you found the challenges to be different with the workforce and how you're dealing with maybe the staff and your team in Cape Town versus when you're up north at SoundCloud?
Yeah. So honestly, kind of, in the end, when you have the right people which come to work for a sense of purpose and mission as well, I don't think there's a huge difference per se. No? But I think what I found in TravelStart, that in the end you need people, especially in the African continent and Africa and Middle East, where we are both active, which are a bit more, show a bit more persistence, which are able to kind of, tackle some of the challenges if things don't work as expected, to kind of find a workaround for that. But it's not only how people actually work, it's as well, for example, the kind of technology you're building. You need to build a technology which is able to deal with systems are down or electricity is not working, and you still need to basically run an online business. So it's both the people, their mindset being more agile and flexible, at the same time as well that they're able to build processes and technology which are adapted to the market environment. So I think that is kind of one clear element, the flexibility you need and a bit unforeseen, not only day to day as well. There's a lot of, let's say, macro changes in the markets we operate, political nature, foreign exchange rates kind of dropping 20% in 1 or 2 weeks. You need a capability to deal with these uncertainties in a much different way than basically I experienced the 20 years I worked in the US and Europe.
Because running a business is always kind of uncertain, right? So maybe in some ways the infrastructure issues or these sort of other challenges maybe make for a scrappier team. Does it kind of have that we'll make it work vibe kind of?
Yeah, it's a bit more entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Like Scrappy has this notion of we are not kind of fixing it and we just do the workaround. No. I think it's still this mindset of building something sustainable, but something which is a bit more adaptable, I would say, to the changes outside. This is kind of what we're after, and in the end, even if we operate in that more complex, market environment, TravelStart is about simplicity. It's like customers need to be able to very simply, book a flight or book a travel, book a hotel room to it, get an insurance on top of it, and this is what we are concerned about. If you look at our product experience, there's a lot of kind of thinking going in there. How can we make it more simple for the customers, but at the same time offer the best price possible and create that transparency around different airlines and different hotel accommodation properties, which we're used to in other regions, but hasn't been as clearly transparent in Africa and parts of Middle East as well. And that's what TravelStart is about: simplicity and price.
What was the biggest challenge when it came to kind of, or currently as you're building the business? Is it getting more supply on, the transparency into supply? What do you see as the critical steps that you're at right now?
In the end, like all OTAs in that space, it's about customer acquisition and engagement and supply, and marry that at the best possible price. I think now there's no secret or any significant difference in the markets we operate than for any OTA outside in the world. It's about the simple things which matter. I think the challenge is, of course, that you basically need talent as well, who has the experience and can build this fantastic fit between the customer needs and the content supply, which we're basically facilitating. So if you ask me, I think the biggest challenge I experience is to really kind of build the skills and the capabilities in the team to operate in the end with the expectations of our customers, which are dramatically increasing year over year because they operate in a connected world as well on a global scale. So the reference is not your competitor in the same market. Reference is, the great players like, Booking.com, what they're building, the Expedias and Pricelines. That's kind of, what everybody has accessible to and measures our experience in the end too. So finding that team, nourishing that team, if you have somebody in to keep those employees engaged and, help them to grow, I think that's the biggest challenge I'm experiencing.
Let's talk about travel trends kind of within Africa, the African traveler, however we want to take it. But what are some of the bright spots that you're seeing countrywide or country-wise? And then how do you determine when to go into a new country? We're going to focus on supply in this country. So walk me through that and how that process works.
Yeah. So honestly, the most exciting market at the moment, I think, is Nigeria. Exciting from two perspectives. Now, a lot of opportunity. This is vibrant. Now, come to Lagos, and when I visit the team there, we actually have kind of, I think 30 people or so, or even more, on the ground in Lagos, where even customers can come to our office and pay for tickets and so on. So we're really kind of, we call the market which we operate in truly home. But coming there, seeing the vibrancy and the opportunity, and at the same time you see the challenges in the industry. If you look at the key online travel agents at the moment, TravelStart is most likely the only one in the leading pack, which is constantly growing and building a healthy business to it, and not only showing growth and numbers to the outside, but really building a solid business on there. So I think that is basically the market where at the moment a lot of, as you call it, interesting, bright spot, where there's energy. But I think we shouldn't only look at size of market. Of course, kind of Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa are the key players there. I think there's a lot going on as well. East Africa, you go to the Rwandas of the world, and this corridor of countries which as well politically have created more stability. This allows us as a business as well to kind of put a closer eye on that. And we are actually operating even today in those markets with a more general side which kind of operates for Africa. When it comes to really building a presence, I think we require a certain market size opportunity. And therefore, what we are thinking through at the moment is building a bit more a regional model, because most likely outside of the three countries I named, Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa, I can't see in the next 1 or 2 years that another country is coming up to the same level of heft. So we'll take a bit of more regional approach there.
So the question for, if I'm a travel agent or any travel business that wants to get more outbound travelers from Africa. So as the middle class grows, that generally is what happened, like we saw in China, you see everyone start traveling. So I imagine from what I see that, middle class is growing, and especially places like Nigeria, people are going to start traveling further and further afoot outside their own continent. Are there any insights you might provide to African travelers that might be helpful, or not to African, about African travelers, that just might be helpful that having moved it down to South Africa?
Yeah, so definitely. So as I indicated before, I think we still, as you rightfully say, there's people only coming now to a certain level of income and so on that they can actually, travel and spend a significant part of their salary, a bigger part of the salary than in many other regions, on doing that kind of one flight. Because typically in Africa, flights are not this hop of an hour; it's a kind of a couple of hours.
Large
flights,
place.
So yes, I think so. You need to do a lot of education, and you need to build a product which is intuitive and helps kind of people explain. And maybe at certain points you need to over-communicate in order to kind of help the customers to make that journey to become travel booker, flight booker, and doing this online. When it comes to a bit more thoughts and advice for companies who want to basically set up, I think you shouldn't underestimate the notion of trust. And trust comes, of course, with payments and being able to kind of offer really the local payments, preferred payment options, and finding a way to express your commitment as well as a company and a product to the market by either putting people into that market or deeply kind of working with customer insights in a customer centricity way and to kind of develop localized communication. I think these are the elements where you can really win. So make sure that you kind of understand that it's a bigger part of their salary when they basically spend on travel. Secondly, that you build trust, and at the same time a true local commitment. I think these are the three things which we try to do right, and would advise other companies as well to think about.
Fantastic.
But please remember, I'm only kind of 11
You're
months
still
in
new on that,
the job and in the country, so there's
still learning.
better people to kind of go to and ask for that.
Well, sometimes the gut feeling in the beginning is right, and sometimes you learn that it's over time you learn more. So. Let's close it out with kind of pivoting a little bit back to customer acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's similar challenges of all OTAs, all these consumer-facing businesses. What are some of the customer acquisition strategies you guys have been using in Africa?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it can't just be Google ads because Africa is a very different market. Not everybody has it, and most people are mobile. So, what are some of the customer acquisition strategies you guys have found successful?
Yeah. While Google plays an important part, in the end, I would say it's about dominating the digital marketing channels. I think that is one of the clear targets and goals we have in every market we take serious, is that we basically work across the whole digital marketing channel mix. Google is one part of it. You of course work with affiliates, and you work in the whole sphere of remarketing and so on. And having that commitment and the ability as well to deploy that investment profitably, I think that is a skill which we really have built. And then now, especially in the markets where we are a bit more advanced, like South Africa, we are starting to really build the full marketing mix in there. Some of the offline marketing elements. But I just recently sat yesterday together with a good friend who is really an expert in marketing for tech companies as well, and a lot of consumer tech companies. In the end, we concluded you need to as well find a way the traditional, more offline marketing channels. How do you build them in the same framework? You don't measure them necessarily exactly with the same targets, but it needs to be part of a customer journey and an engagement funnel, and they all need to fit together. There's no such thing like here's a brand marketing pot and here's all other marketing, and they are measured on a different system. Somehow they need to interact with each other, and I think that's the the full set of competency which we're now trying to build out. No? But starting with truly understanding, building a commitment and taking risks in digital marketing, I think that is what TravelStart really can do and has successfully done and will successfully do in the future as well.
Will brick and mortar be part of one of those risks, like in China that we're seeing, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's and I think that comes back in an interesting bridge to the to a point we made before around trust. No? So in some of the markets, I think having a bit more an offline presence, even with people, not necessarily for selling tickets in simple terms, but for having creating approachability and trust might indeed be kind of a success factor. It's clearly in Nigeria one of the reasons why we are successful there is because people can actually kind of go to our offices and speak with a live person and build that trust, especially if they haven't experienced online travel before and booking online before. So we're learning from that, and there might be kind of more opportunities in some of the markets that we create a bit more an offline presence, but less for sales, more for building that trust and customer engagement.
Makes
and
sense.
helping customers to think holistically, because TravelStart is not only about flights, it's flights, accommodation, we have cars, so we are a full service provider in all markets which we are operating in.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that perspective. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me
Absolutely.
and having Africa in as part
We
of
need
your
to keep
focus as
talking
well.
about this. It's important, you know. Every region has its own ups and downs, and we got to learn and talk. This has been another clip from tnoozLIVE at ITB, presented by Travelaer. So thank you, Travelaer. We're going to have plenty of clips on our YouTube channel, and if you're watching live, we will be back with another great interview.